Hey everyone, this is Dean and welcome to Dino's Tech World. Today I thought I'd show you how to use TinkerCAD. TinkerCAD is a free program. It's on the web at tinkercad.com and you can sign up for an account and you can mess around with 3D designs, and you can even create files that you can 3D print from. And so I'm going to give you a couple of pointers on that. So if you're starting out with 3D printing, some things and reasons why TinkerCAD is helpful. So let's start out by creating a new project. When you initially come in, you'd be at home. And at home, it gives you a choice of 3D designs, circuits, and code blocks. We're going to click on 3D designs because that's primarily what I use this program for. These are all the designs that I've worked on over the last couple of years. And, I started out making chess pieces, and then I started downloading things like lens caps and accessories for old film cameras, and I designed some myself, modified some, and I want to show you how to do kind of both, how to create something and how to take a design and modify it for printing. The public library near me, you can print a certain amount of things on a 3D printer every week, and you can just send it in over the internet and pick it up. So there's probably either the public library near you or some schools or community colleges or other places, you may have access to a 3D printer that you can use, or you may have purchased one. So the primary thing is, what can you print? And a lot of times you can just do a search on 3D files, or use Thingiverse, Thingiverse, thingiverse.com, and you can search there, and people make all sorts of things that you can use, and some of them are pretty useful. Like if you buy old cameras, sometimes you need a lens cap, and you can print a custom lens cap. So let's start out by creating a file real quick. And so we go up here to create, and we're going to select 3D design. Once again, we can do code blocks or circuits, but we're not interested in that. So we come up here. This is the work plane. Now, these are shapes that you can use. I'm going to show you how you can do all this, but the first thing you want to look at is settings down here. And this is the dimensions of the work plane, 150 by 150. The library where I print, the main printers are 150 by 150. I think they have some other ones that are a little bit bigger, but as long as I'm in 150 by 150, no matter what printer they print it on, it's going to work out. So I've set that by default. So what you can do is set this to the default of your printer or the printer you're using, and then click on make this default, so that you always have this area first, so you know you're not making something too big, and that you have everything grouped correctly. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to import a file of chess pieces that I made. And the reason I'm going to import it is I want to show you how to do that in case you want to bring something in from Thingiverse or Thingiverse or some other place on the web. Because as long as you know the size of your work plane, you can actually bring in multiple files or import them, and we can duplicate some of the pieces so it fills up the space. So I'm going to go to import. I'm going to go choose file. I'm going to go to downloads. And this is my file right here. This is an STL file. And there's also an OBJ file. Those are the two files that types that TinkerCAD creates, and those two types, most 3D printers can take those two types of files. And so we're going to import it. And what we're going to do is we're going to see how well it fits on this plane here, and we're going to maybe multiply some of the pieces and use all the workspace. If you hold the right mouse key, you can move around the kind of the camera position if you use the arrow keys, or if you use if you use a scroll bar, you can scroll in and out on this as well. So you pan with the right and you scroll in and out. I have to think about it because I'm kind of used to doing it. Different 3D programs use the mouse slightly differently, and so it can be a little bit confusing. All right, so now we have these chess pieces that I made, and you can see there's a pawn here, there's a bishop, there's a rook, and a king and a queen. I made all of these with these by combining these simple shapes here. TinkerCAD is a pretty good program, but it doesn't have some of the more advanced features something like Blender would have. You could also create things in Blender and 3D print them. But TinkerCAD's a real easy program, and it's a good place to start out. So because this was exported together, these are now all grouped together. So there's enough space here so that I could actually move these pieces over here, and I could go up here to duplicate, and then I can move another set over here like this. Now these are overlapping here, so we gotta be careful about that. So we can move these around. And so because we've set the workspace to the right size for our printer, if we pull something in, we can duplicate it and fill up the workspace. So for instance, if we just had a pawn here or something, we could duplicate it 8 times or 16 times, as many times as we could on the plate, so we could print them all at once instead of just printing one at a time. So that's something to bear in mind. So first of all, let's get rid of this. And I want to give us an idea of height here. All right, so I'm going to delete these as well because we don't need them now. We're going to make our own pawn. And I'm going to just make a quick, simple pawn because I'm going to show you all the things all the tools in here that you can use, and then you can replicate this pawn. You'll be able to do some of your own things as well. So we're going to start out really simple, and then we'll add a couple of features. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull out a cylinder right here. And one thing you want to do on TinkerCAD is, I think that turns on, does that? We want to click on this right here because it will give us a way to measure. What's this right here? Oh, that just gives us a plane to measure. All right. This is the square is the one I usually use, and I turn this on, and so you can see. Do we need that? If that's highlighted and we click on this, it will give us all the measurements. So it gives us the vertical and the sides. So this cylinder is 20 by 20 by 20. So the first thing we want to do is we can actually click on here, and let's this is in millimeters. The settings are down here. If you click on settings, you can also change it to inches if you prefer to work in inches. So we're going to make this. Do I want to go with 20? Let's keep this diameter 20. Make things easy. Now, so we can actually change the height here. And if you want to change the height, you can actually click on here and just type a number in, or you can click on this little handle, this little square, and pull down. And if you watch over to the side where the measurement is, you can figure out how much that is. So let's make this, should we make it 5? Yeah, we don't want to get it too much thinner than that. Let's bring it down to 3, actually. The next thing we're going to bring in is we're going to bring in this half sphere. And the half sphere is already 20 by 20, so it's the same diameter, and the height is 10. And so what we're going to do is we're going to bring this down once again. I think we're going to, where do we want that? So this is going to be the base of our pawn. Now you can see it's out of alignment here. But if I click on this dome and then I hold shift and click on the disk, so they're both selected, I can pan up above them. And I can go up here. And this is a line. And so you see these little dots here. And this is how it will align it. So we're going to click this one here to center it this way. And then this one here to center it this way. And now it's perfectly centered. So that's an important, alignment is an important tool to know about. And the measurements are an important tool to know about. So if we have 20 across the base here, let's come out here with, instead of a cylinder, we're going to use this triangle. Now this triangle is kind of tall, and that's only 20. But we want a little taller than that. Let's make this 30 tall. Need to be a little bit taller. Alright, so now it's 30. We've pulled it up to 30. Remember also you can click on this number and change it to whatever you want. So then up here, we're going to, we can change the diameter of the base on this. If we highlight cone, this comes up here and we can click on this arrow to open this up. And then we have a base radius and a top radius. Right now the base radius is 10. Top radius is 0, which brings it to a point. So let's bring this down a little bit. Let's bring this to, we don't want it quite that much. Or do we? Let's click on this and make this 3 millimeters. And then at the bottom, we're going to go to the radius. We want it down some. What are we at here? Let's make this one 8. Well, that's 20. Oops. Actually, we probably need to make it, if the radius is, let's make the radius 5 here. If the radius is 5 here, that means the diameter will be 10. And if it's 3 here, it will be 6 at the top. So that looks pretty good. 3, which would actually be, if we actually measure it down here, you can see the 5 is 10 up here. And we've got 3 up here at the top, which would be 6. So once again, we've got this highlighted, and we're going to hold down shift and select the disc down here and this little dome. We're going to look over top of them. We're going to go to alignment. We're going to go and hit these 2. So now everything's perfectly aligned. All right. So now the next thing that we can do is we can take this shape right here, this and we're gonna go on this side, and we're gonna make this let's say 7. This one's a little, let's make it 8 here. And this is still 20. Let's make this 8 to round it back out again. Oops. If you hit Control Z, it will undo something in case you kind of stretch something out by mistake. So that's not really quite what we want there. So we click on this again and see, this is 8. Let's make it 10 and 10. So I'm going to type 10 in there and 10 in here. Click on this, we should be able to pull it right over there. We're going to click on this up arrow here and bring this up some. Now this area, let's click on this square. Oh, that's the wrong square. So I'm going to hit Control Z. It's this square right here. We're going to bring that down like that. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is bring out this sphere here. And this sphere, let's move it over here so we can see. I'm going to make this 10, and we're going to make this 10. And then we're going to make this 10 over here. So all 3 axes. We're going to click on the base and then click back on that. And we should be able to raise this up with this arrow. And just pull this over here. All right, so now we have kind of a very pawn looking like thing. So once again, you want to click on everything in here. But the other thing you can do is you can actually click and drag like this, and it will select everything. So that's another way you can select everything. What we want to do is look at from the top again. We want to use these two to center everything. And then we'll individually we can adjust these. So I can bring that up slightly if I want to. All right, that looks really good. All right, so there's one other thing we can do is we can, once again, we can click and we can create a click and drag, and so that we get everything selected, and we can group. And if we group, let's click on the workspace. It makes them all the same color now because they're all one unit. And we can actually move this around. If we hit Control D, we actually copy it, and then we can drag one out here. And so we could hit Control D, or we could hit this duplicate over here. And we can copy them. Just make sure that they're on the workspace. They're not overlapping. You don't want them, for example, you don't want them like that because they'll merge together when you print them. And so you can copy it as many times as you want. So there's 16 pawns on the chessboard. So if you were doing just one side, you could do 8, or you could do, actually I think we have enough space here to do 16. All right, and so when it's saved like this in TinkerCAD, you can group and ungroup things. But when you export it out into an object or OBJ file or an STL file, it's going to make them as like one thing, so you can't ungroup them anymore, unfortunately. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take one of these, and I'm going to go back up, and there's a little icon here. This ungroups it. And so now, say I don't like this rounded part here, this dome. We can move this away. And we can take another one of these cylinders and we can grab the handle here. Actually, we don't want the cylinder. I messed up. We want the cone. We want the cone because if we go to the cone, we can change the radius at the top. We're going to want the radius at the top to be 10, I think. No, we don't want a 10. We want it to be, let's make it 8. And then we want the radius at the bottom. We want that to stay 20. And then we want to click on here and grab this height handle and bring this down. And we're going to click on the work area. We're going to click here and bring this back up. Now once again, we're going to click and drag, and we want to make sure we don't select any parts from any of the other pieces. We're going to go back up to the top here. We're going to go to align and click on these two things. And I think the only thing we click on the workspace again and then click on this one piece and then drag it down so it meets the other part there. And so then if we click and drag all these together and then group them again, it should change to one color. And so we have a variation of our pawn. So we've used a cone to create this shape. We used a dome to create that shape. Now the other thing to be aware of is we take one of these out here again, and if we flatten that out a little bit, there's a bevel here on the cylinder's properties. And we can bevel this, but it bevels the top and the bottom. It bevels both sides. So that's something to be aware of. It's going to bevel both sides. And so sometimes you want both sides beveled, other times you don't. And so that's the reason that we use the cone on this, because we could just make another piece and set it on top of the other. So I'm going to just hit the delete key, get rid of that. You can get rid of this now. And so there we have 4 pawns, 2 different variations. And so that's how you can make a pawn. You can figure out how to make the other pieces if you're interested in making chess pieces. Once you print them out, what I would recommend is once you print them off, like you start with a pawn or 1 or 2 of the pieces, if you print them off, you get a better idea if the size is correct. Or that's one way to get a better idea of the size correct. And once you figure out the size of 1 or 2 pieces, you have something to go by for your other pieces to make them all in kind of proportion. All right, so that's a basic tutorial on TinkerCAD. It should have given you a pretty good idea of how to do pretty much everything. The only other thing is when you want to print it, you can export it. And so we would hit this export. And you can select object, OBJ, or STL, or a GLB file. But the OBJ and the STL, I think, are the primary files used by 3D printers most of the time. And so you can just save that to your hard drive, and then you can take it to the printer or email it or send it over the web, however you're accessing the printer. And so that's pretty much it. So that's how you use TinkerCAD.